All right, I think everything's good. Are we good to go? All right, good morning, everyone. Today's date is May 7th, 2024. I'm convening this meeting of the City of Portland Budget Committee. Rebecca, please call the roll.
Ryan,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Maps,
Here.
Rubio,
Here.
Wheeler.
Here, colleagues, in the first convening of the Budget Committee, I'm delivering both my proposed budget and my proposed budget message as required by Oregon state law. These documents have been delivered to you as part of this meeting material, and this meeting's materials, and the full document is available online at the City Budget Office website at www.portlandoregon.gov/CBO. And colleagues, I want to apologize, as I do every year. You're going to hear this message at least 3 times and perhaps more, but again, that is a requirement of state law. So welcome. During this work session, the City Budget Office will lead us through my proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024-25. Before we begin, I want to thank my fellow commissioners and their hardworking staffs for their tireless work over the last several months to develop the budget for the individual service areas. I appreciate your collaboration as we strategize about how to make the best use of the available resources that we have. I also want to express my deep appreciation for the entire City Budget Office for your work to usher us through this process. I know that towards the end it gets very hectic. There's a lot of changes. There's early mornings, late nights, and everything in between. So I really want to appreciate the work of CBO. With that, I'll just take a couple of minutes to step through my mayor's message. Over the course of the last several years, Portland has faced numerous, unprecedented, and overlapping crises. A rapid increase in unsheltered homelessness, rising rates of crime and gun violence, livability issues related to litter and graffiti, and the strain on our economy in the wake of the pandemic. Portlanders remain clear that they want to see solutions at the street level. In response, I, along with the entire City Council, have invested in new systems and programs to address the most complex challenges facing our community. In answering the call for on-the-ground solutions, we literally reinvented how the city serves Portlanders and laid the foundation for bold change while beginning the process of healing our community. We're seeing success from these programs, and we need to continue to build on the momentum. That is what this budget does. Despite the complex crises, the ongoing government transformation work that we're all engaged in, and the budgetary challenges, my proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024-25 builds on the momentum that we've achieved in meeting the most critical needs of Portlanders. With regard to public safety, the citywide Portland Insight Service clearly identified public safety as one of the top priorities for Portlanders. This is the largest public safety budget that has ever been proposed in a city budget. It fully funds public safety and then some. The Portland Police Bureau, Portland Fire and Rescue, the Bureau of Emergency Communications, Portland Street Response, the Police Vehicle Theft Task Force, the Focused Intervention Team, the Enhanced Community Safety Team, the Office of Violence Prevention, Rose City Defense, Summer Ceasefire, and many more will continue leading the way to a safer and more livable community. With regard to homelessness and livability, the budget formally establishes Portland Solutions as a program in the City Administrator's Office. Our Safe Rest Village program, the Temporary Alternative Shelter Site program, the Impact Reduction program, the Public Environment Management Office, and the Street Services Coordination Center will now all operate under this single umbrella to enhance coordination and service delivery citywide. Many of these programs were piloted originally in our 90-day resets that many of you remember. We heard loudly and clearly from the community that they wanted to see the same level of city service in every part of the city. Now, through this program is the time to ensure that this program is memorialized in the city structure and is taken citywide. With regard to economic recovery, our work to support economic recovery across the city is bolstered through this budget. This budget establishes the Portland Permitting and Development Bureau, a historic move to streamline the permitting process for housing developers, business owners, and homeowners alike. It also supports the Events Office and establishes the Office of Small Business within Prosper Portland, improving entrepreneurs' access to repair grants, technical assistance for business development, and permit navigation. This budget also addresses the charter transition. This budget spans both forms of government, with the current council executing the first half of the fiscal year and the newly elected mayor executing the second half of the fiscal year. This budget funds the new management structure, as well as the physical infrastructure changes and the onboarding required to ensure that the city and its incoming electeds and their staff are ready for business January 1st, 2025, just as voters intended. The city's fiscal environment is and will continue to be more constrained than we've experienced in recent years. In addition, several significant issues needed to be addressed within fiscal year 24-25, including but not limited to legal expenses, overtime costs, the expiration of one-time dollars like the American Rescue Plan dollars, declining non-general fund revenue streams, costs related to voter-approved charter reform, and other issues. As such, with the exception of Portland Fire and Rescue, the Portland Police Bureau, and the Portland Bureau of Emergency Communications, all bureaus were directed to take a 5% constraint in current appropriation levels, which has resulted in an overall reduction in approximately $11.9 million. I am very thankful that we are able to match a specialized funding source like the Portland Clean Energy Fund with appropriate projects within city bureaus to execute critical climate work Portlanders want while being able to fund other high priorities for the public. I want to extend my personal gratitude to the PSEF committee for their partnership with city bureaus to review and approve over $600 million in City of Portland Bureau projects that aligned with PSEF goals over the next 5 years. Our collaboration over the last several months demonstrates the immense potential for continued partnership, fueling the cultural change needed for the city to fully lean into sustainable business practices and meet our climate goals. And with that, that completes my presentation. And so we will now turn to Director Levine. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Ruth Levine. I'm the Interim Director of the City Budget Office. I'm happy to be here with you this morning to review the Mayor's proposed budget. So with that, I will get started. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick overview of the budget process, and then I'm going to dive more deeply into the Mayor's proposed budget. And I'll hit on some significant investments. I'll talk about the total PSEF allocations that are represented in the budget. And then I'll turn to budget notes. And then at the end, I'll just talk about the next steps and the process from here until June 12th. Please feel free to stop me. I hope this is informal. It's just me here. But I will say I do have lots of city staff behind me that and online that I may call on to answer specific questions about programs if they come up. Just a quick thank you also to our City Budget Office staff who did, as the Mayor noted, work really hard over the last few weeks to help get this budget together. So, and Bureau Finance staff as well. It's been a group effort, so.
And Ruth, if I could add, I should have added this and I'll forget to add this if I don't do it now. As a reminder, the full budget message is available on the complete Mayor's fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget, which is available on the City Budget Office website.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so super high level. I just wanted to, step back for a second before we get into any of the details and just show these are the total city budget from the actuals in 21-22 up through the proposed budget for next fiscal year. I think the point I wanted to make here is just this sort of headline number includes everything. It includes what we call beginning fund balance. It includes capital and operating. You can see this year that, in the blue bar is the total budget in billions, which is next to, in the yellow bar, total city FTE in thousands. And so you can see this year the budget went up a little more than the FTE did, on a trend line. I think that's largely due to some of the debt financed activity in water and BES. So this is just to say that this number encompasses a lot. And in order to see the dynamics, you kind of have to break it down a little bit more. But I did want to hit on just the super high level numbers. So this is one of the ways to kind of slice that and look at it a little more closely. These are sort of more discretionary. Well, Portland Clean Energy Fund is not a discretionary revenue, but the American Rescue Plan and General Fund are obviously more discretionary. And you can just see the, continued sort of growth in the general fund that's moderated a bit this past year. And then you can see in the yellow on top, that's the American Rescue Plan funds, and those sort of come down as we've spent down those funds. And then in the green is the Portland Clean Energy Fund. And that's been growing in total. So again, this does not show you every revenue source. This is just a few select revenue sources so you can see the dynamics a little more clearly. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in to kind of set the stage for where we started this budget process. And as the mayor said, this was a challenging budget year. Next year is going to continue to be a challenging budget year. And I think this is probably the clearest way to see that, which is simply that these are general fund revenues in the green and general fund ongoing expenses in the red. This was from the December forecast. So prior to the mayor's budget guidance that directed a 5% constraint for the non-public safety bureaus. And you can see that, you maybe can't see because it's small, but there was a $2 million gap this year between ongoing expenses and general fund revenues. And then you can see that those two lines stay quite close together until fiscal year 28-29. And so this is simply to say that while the city's budget is growing and the general fund continues to grow as well, it has not grown fast enough to make up for growth in expenditures that are baked into the forecast. And that doesn't include a lot of things, right? As we've seen recently, it doesn't include certain health benefit increases even. It doesn't include certain legal obligations. So and I'm going to speak to that on the next slide. So this is just to say that while the city's budget is growing, the general fund forecast continues to be quite tight. This also doesn't speak to things the mayor mentioned, such as declining revenues in the permitting space and transportation and the like. So there are sort of multiple places in this budget where we had to address substantial kind of gaps in terms of the expenditures and just simply the ongoing expenditures and the revenues. And we'll talk more about how we did that. And then this is actually a slide that we presented in the November work session on setting up the budget, but I thought it was helpful to come back to right now because a lot of the things that were on this slide are in fact things that are dealt with in this budget. Increasing personnel costs over time. Some of those are baked into the forecast, but others are not, as I mentioned, with the health benefit increases. Emergency response staffing issues, that was an issue we identified in the fall as, overtime costs in the public safety bureaus have risen, and that was leaving sort of a structural gap in the case of Portland Fire in particular. And then the fiscal cliff is is largely driven by the expiration of American Rescue Plan funds, which will expire at the end of this calendar year. And many of the things that are in the mayor's budget were things that had expiring one-time resources through American Rescue Plan. Legal liabilities were all funded. All the items on that list were funded in this budget. Charter transition costs, both ongoing and one-time, were also funded in this budget. And then PBOT's deficit, we have more information on that, but a substantial amount of funding, both general fund and non-general fund, went to address PBOT's budget deficit in this budget. So this is just to say we knew what the challenges were when we were going into this process, and that's largely what we've addressed. Okay, I'll stop there before I dive more into the proposed. Any questions?
Let me jump in here
Yeah.
real quickly. I don't know when to have this discussion, but can we go back to the previous slide? Fiscal cliff, ongoing needs with one-time funding. I've flipped through the presentation that I think we're going to look at today. It's very helpful. Some things that I'm not seeing in the presentation that I'd like to have a better understanding of as we go through this budget process is essentially ongoing funding needs or obligations that we're still paying for with one-time funds. The Joint Office are great examples. Safe Rest Villages are great examples, and I understand that too. But I think even in my portfolio, I'm starting to see some examples where I'm not of ongoing needs that are paid for, perhaps with one-time funds. A great example that I'm going to ask you about at some point today is our overhead model. I will tell you, amongst my budget analysts, there's some confusion about which part of the charges that we face for the overhead model represent ongoing charges and which are one-time charges. And in the utility space, this is very important because literally my folks are working on the budget for the year after next right now. And we kind of can't really get at that work if we don't understand what's a one-time cost or what is an ongoing cost that this year the mayor is proposing to pay with one-time dollars versus things that frankly we should bake into our rates moving forward. So I'll put that out there. I don't know if you have an immediate response to that today, or it's certainly a discussion that I think that we need to have between staff and probably in public too.
Yeah, I sort of two responses to that, and then we can get you more detail on specifically which items essentially would contribute to the fiscal cliff for next year. So on the first question about just the fiscal cliff in general, there were places where frankly we didn't have very much ongoing resource when it comes down to it. The constraint generated $11.9 million in ongoing resource. So, that's important, but it was also largely eaten up by kind of off the top type things like legal liabilities. And so there were places where we sort of ran out of ongoing resources. There were other places where we were able to address a fiscal cliff, essentially. Like in Portland Street Response, they had more one-time resources previously, and then we transferred $6.5 million of ongoing resource to Portland Street Response. Portland Fire got $6 million of ongoing resource. So there are places where we were able to address that, but there were other places where there is still a fiscal cliff. And then the other reason there's still going to be a fiscal cliff going forward is that we have ARPA resources, American Rescue Plan resources through December of this year, through the calendar year. And so there are places where that grant funding was able to sort of buy down essentially the cost for next fiscal year of certain items. So I can get you like a more comprehensive list of things where we sort of, we don't, again, with the fiscal cliff, it's always a bit of an estimate because you don't know exactly what the need will be for the next fiscal year at this point in the process, but there are places we know there will be a need of some magnitude.
Well, I appreciate getting that information, and I think it's important for this council to understand what's happening in that space. You know, anytime we're paying for ongoing needs with one-time dollars, it just creates a structural fiscal crisis that frankly is going to get addressed, or some future council will need to address. And one strategy for addressing that is to try to right-size our programming or increase our resources, but we haven't. If we don't sort of acknowledge the fact that we are putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound, often we just allow the problem to get worse, at least in the spaces that I manage. But thank you. I'll let you get back to your show.
And then just real quick on the overhead piece, we'll address that with staff. There's just carryover in there, and that's like a normal part of the overhead process, but we'll address that with staff.
Okay, thank you very much. That's that's important for us. We were actually kind of stuck yesterday. Carry on.
Commissioner Gonzalez, do you have?
Yeah, just to follow up one question on fiscal cliff. When we talk about cannabis, opioid, and PSEF, could you just give us the Cliff Notes version of which of those we identify as one-time sources? So it flows through to a bureau, cannabis, opioid, or PSEF. When is that one-time money and when is that ongoing? Just Cliff Notes reminder there.
Yeah, so cannabis, we have both ongoing and one-time resources. So I believe in the case of Portland Street Response, they have ongoing. And hopefully someone will correct me if that's not right.
That's correct on Portland Street.
And for cannabis funds, opioid is one-time in nature. It's sort of like American Rescue Plan. It's just that we got the grant and we're spending it down. And PSEF. So I think at this point, the way that the PSEF team has characterized things is as 5-year allocations. And within those 5-year allocations, there are some that are for one-time types of expenses, right? A streetcar in PBOT, for example, that's obviously just a one-time expense. There are other things that are more ongoing in nature. And so some of them appear in the budget as they're budgeted as ongoing because we budget for 5 years at a time and they're getting an allocation in each year of the 5 years. And so we budget that as ongoing. I think there's continuing conversations to be had for each of those specific allocations about, what happens at the end of that 5-year window.
So right now they're identified as ongoing sources, but we've got that burns off in 5 years theoretically.
In some cases, they're identified as ongoing. Yes, not every one, but yes, in some cases, and yes, that's right.
And then can you go back to the prior slide? We see this slide quite a bit, and I just want to make sure I understand our degree of confidence in the projections. I mean, I know it's projection, it's, we're years out, but why does the green line start to go positive under this current projection?
Yeah. So I believe that's retiring debt obligations largely is the reason that we start to see a gap there. But I'd have to get you a little bit more detail on sort of just more detail on what makes that up. Our economist is out on leave. Otherwise, I'd have him answer.
And just to calibrate, what's our degree of confidence on this more positive projection X number of years out?
So, I mean, I would say on the retiring debt obligations, obviously that's a schedule. So we're fairly confident on that. On the revenue side, I think there's always obviously a lot more uncertainty, especially that many years out. I don't think I pulled this slide in, but I can send it to you. Peter has a property tax forecast, and you can see property tax growth over time. And I think the important thing to note there is that, as Peter said, property taxes are very stable because of the way that they're capped. And however, the property tax growth could change, by a fairly small amount, and that could have a fairly large impact on our budget because the number is so big. And so I think I'd have to get you the specific numbers. He did, in this forecast, he lowered the property tax growth assumption, and that did have a significant impact on the forecast. So I can get you that chart. It's in the December forecast memo that he put out. But so that's somewhat of a source of uncertainty. I think the biggest thing that the economist always talks about in terms of revenue uncertainty is business license taxes, because they have grown substantially. They've been they were quite robust through the pandemic, obviously, and this was the inflection point year, and we anticipated that, but the exact shape of that curve matters, obviously, and can be hard to predict. So I think there is a fair amount of uncertainty when you're looking at fiscal year 28-29 around business license tax as our second largest general fund revenue.
Got it. Thank you.
And I know you're eager to move on. Can we move forward one slide? I notice actually your final graphic on the far right there is PBOT's budget deficit projecting 32 million in ongoing cuts beginning in fiscal year 24-25. Can you flesh out for us what that means?
Yeah, so reminder that this was, I should put it somewhere on the slide, this was from November.
Yeah.
So this was before they put together their requested budget, and as we can talk more about, they put together a package of additions that more than made up for the reductions. I may actually have a slide that I can pull up later, but that was just based on their forecast at that time.
Sure. So maybe another way to get at it would be, we kind of came into this fiscal year over at PBOT facing a $32 million structural deficit. A year from now, no matter what happens, I'm not going to be the commissioner in charge of PBOT. Indeed, we won't have a commissioner in charge of PBOT. Will the Bureau still face a structural deficit?
I'd probably want to defer to Jeremy on that. Can I?
Jeremy, do you want to give us just a quick overview of the ongoing fiscal issues at PBOT?
Yeah, Jeremy Patton, Business Services Director at PBOT.
There you go.
Is that better?
Try.
How about now?
That's
There we
great.
go. Jeremy Patton, Business Services Group Director here at PBOT. I would say moving into the future, there's always going to be somewhat of a structural deficit, just given the way that our revenues never if you look at the same fiscal cliff of the general fund, it's
Yeah.
a very similar fiscal cliff for PBOT revenues. They're never going to keep up with expenses. I would say we look 5 to 10 years out, so
Yeah.
we're looking with this 32, we tried to address most of the shortfall of the 32 million. I would say we still have about 7 million in cuts that we'll end up taking this year to help address that shortfall. There are things that could come up in the forecast that would, cause us to take future cuts in the future. We're looking at the fleet move for next year would be an additional cost. And if there are any union negotiations that affect our costs, those are all things that are, not accounted for in a future forecast, but the way that all the costs currently are included in this 32 and have been solved for.
So have we right-sized PBOT moving forward, or a year from now, should the next council expect to be looking at a $32 million imbalance?
I would hope it's not a $32 million imbalance. We know a few things like fleet is
Yeah.
$3 million or so. We know we'll have to adjust for that.
Okay.
As long as revenues to continue to come in at kind of the level that we think, and we've been pretty conservative with that, I do not expect to come back to you with a $32 million shortfall.
Well,
That
that's
would be
great news.
Pretty dire.
Great. Thank you very much. That was just what I wanted to explore there.
Ella, I have my hand up, so.
The work session, go ahead and just jump in.
Okay. I appreciate the overview of expenditures, pressures. I'm wondering where the corresponding slide is on the concerns we have ongoing for revenue. I know that you mentioned that we have more uncertainty with revenue when you looked at that one green thing with the
Yeah.
red. And I think that's true. But it seems like we should spend some more time on, I guess because I have a revenue background, I'm concerned about where we're going to get our revenue going forward. I think everyone is. That's why there's so much uncertainty. So in this budget process, Mayor, I think it's really important that we spend more time on that, because that should help dictate where we make some difficult decisions on investments.
Yeah, definitely. And I think As I said, and I'm happy to send you, this is just general fund revenue, and then Jeremy just talked a little bit about PBOT revenue. But I'm happy to send you more information on the forecasts. I do think that I think I mostly just hit on the key sort of uncertainty. I think the property tax growth rate and the business license tax sort of shape of the curve are the key things that I believe Peter's looking at when he's thinking about revenue forecasts. There are other areas where I think there's some concern, but they're much smaller. I mean, recreational cannabis tax is a good one, right? That our revenues there have been declining, and it's been much more volatile than initially expected. And so we're kind of we've taken significant cuts for next year in that revenue source, but it's very small, relatively speaking. So there's, I think there's other areas, and we'd be happy to share more detailed information on all of the revenues within the general fund. But
It's just a missing slide when you think of the balance, and I just wanted to bring that out at this moment. I think we all experienced a lot of one-time revenue from on high, and so we got used to that. We spent the money pretty quickly, and now we're facing reality. I think this was there for a couple of years as we see the businesses close. We've seen an exodus in population. So we have to, I think, spend more time on the reality of our revenues. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move into more of the proposed budget. So I know this is a complex slide, but it's just trying to give a little bit of a visual reminder of what the proposed budget is, because sometimes we jump to that far right column of just the changes that are in the proposed budget, and I'm going to do that. But as I do that, I just wanted to give you the full context of how we build the budget. We start every year with the current appropriation level, and that's this is for the general fund. That's the ties to the forecast sets the stage, and then the current appropriation level is what makes up the expenditures in the forecast. It's the sort of prior year ongoing allocations plus any adjustments that have been made plus inflation. And then in this year, there was a constraint. So that comes off at the end after inflation is added. And then that rolls into the Bureau requested stage where they make technical adjustments and they request decision packages. And then the CBO takes a pass at sort of recommending decision packages, and then that becomes the basis on which the mayor starts the proposed phase. And so it's kind of like we build something, and then that starts the next process. So they're very much, it's a building blocks process. So it's not like we're starting from zero at any point in this process. So I just want to, sometimes people wonder if something that they did in their Bureau requested phase is in, and by and large, if the mayor didn't change it and it was recommended, then it's in. So that's just, it's not, you don't have to look for every single line item, I guess. Okay, so this speaks to the sort of where the play is in the proposed phase. The forecast for the general fund usually gets updated every April. It has to be updated every April. This April, the update was no update. So we and the reason for that is, and I should have mentioned this when you asked about revenue uncertainty. The main driver of uncertainty for Peter was the business license tax forecast, and the receipts as of when he did the April update. I think it was April 19th was maybe the last day of receipts. He were within $1 million of where he had projected in December. And so that gave him sort of the confidence to say, okay, we're on pace. We're no changes here. In the last few years, and some of the experience you were referencing, Commissioner Ryan, is during the pandemic, business license taxes were expected to take a hit, and they in fact grew. And so those are the situations where in April we say, oh, actually we have a bunch of money to allocate for next year. And that wasn't the case. The good news this year was that there was no bad news. Being right on was a good thing. So in any case, in many years there is general fund excess forecast in the proposed budget. This year there is not. General fund program carryovers, anything that you all approved in the spring bump gets recognized in the proposed budget. That's just the timing of it. That's why we do the spring bump in early April. And then other one-time sources. So we were able to pull forward about $13 million of unspent policy reserves, and then one-time draws on future set-asides from the spring bump. We also had $1.2 million of sort of recognized underspending this year in the spring bump through those general fund return packages. And then the last bucket is allowable revenue swaps. Obviously, the mayor talked a little bit about PSEF. We've done that in the past with American Rescue Plan, so that's another sort of bucket. Okay, and so now we are on the allocations portion. So this is the amount, this is just that last column that I showed you on the previous graph of the things that were sort of added in the mayor's proposed phase. And I'm going to go through all of these in subsequent slides in more detail, so I'm not going to sort of dwell on what's in each of these buckets, but you can see visually here sort of at a high level how the allocations broke out.
I don't think I understand what's going on here.
Okay.
What does 75 million represent?
So let me go back here. Hold on. This last column. So it includes sort of amounts that were sort of raised through the constraint process, those general fund amounts. It includes that roughly $13 million of sort of pull forwards in a sense, not carryovers, because those are like one-to-one. We have a revenue and we have an expense, but these are things that we were able to free up essentially from set aside to use more generally. And then the remainder is largely through revenue swaps. And so those are the kind of buckets of money that we had to allocate to decision packages, essentially. And some of those decision packages were requested by bureaus in their requested budgets. Some of them were new and added in the mayor's proposed phase. And so all of that together is what's on this slide.
Okay, so the mayor has, as we began this process, the mayor placed some constraints on bureau budgeting, and that kind of created a $75 million pot of money, which then got distributed as illustrated in this graphic is a simple way to kind of put it.
Yes, except for that the constraints were only about 13 million.
13 million
And then we had
carryover.
the current year resource, and then we had the revenue swaps. And those were the three sort of, those bottom three were the three buckets we had to use in balancing the mayor's proposed budget. And then this was how they got balanced. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Maybe another way to put it is let's pick one example, like charter reform. What's our total spending on charter reform? It's more than 8 million, I would assume?
Yes.
Okay, and our total spending on Portland Solutions is more than 17 million. These are just kind of dollars that we were able to scrape together and move into these spaces.
That's right. Yeah, public safety is the most obvious example, right? Their budgets are hundreds of millions of dollars, and then this was added $20 million.
Right. Should I think of these as, is this where one-time money largely lives, or?
This is both one-time and ongoing. So,
Okay.
and there's a couple of buckets of one-time outside of what's in here, right? There's grant spending that's in their budgets. That's not, that's one-time often.
Yep.
And then There's carryover, which is one time. So this does not include carryover packages, what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So just regular old program carryover, you say, I have one-time underspending, I'm using it next year for this thing. That's all one-time money. And I believe that's about $22 million next year. Somebody can correct me. And so, yes, there is significant one-time in here, but there's also one-time elsewhere.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
All right. So now we're just going to look at some donut charts that show you the sort of breakout of the budget in a couple of ways, and then I'm going to get into the more specific line items. So this is just all funds. As you can see when you look at it this way, Public Works is very large. That's, this is capital and operating. This is everything. And then this is just general fund. When you look at it, just general fund, public safety takes up a significant chunk. Budget and finance has some balances. That's obviously not all operating. And then this is just the non-general fund look. So it just gives you a little bit of a visual sense of how the budget breaks out with different sort of slices. Okay.
Actually, can I pause you there?
Yes.
Help me understand the $1.1 billion in community and economic development. What funds are those coming from? Is that?
So that would include BDS, housing, BPS, so all of the PSEP. This is like all the funds that live in those places.
Okay.
So this includes the full PSEP fund, the Housing Investment Fund, all of BDS, Portland Permitting Development, Urban Renewal. So all the tax increment finance funds in Prosper and Housing as well.
And what I think our third largest wedge right there is budget and finance at $740 million. So those aren't general fund dollars. Where do those dollars come from?
I'd have to get somebody to pull.
But roughly
what's in.
overhead, is that the concept that other bureaus pay? Or?
I assume there's some like debt financing in there, but
Okay.
I can get somebody to pull what's in that slice for you.
Okay, thanks.
Ruth. Yeah. Hi. First of all, welcome to your new role. Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you look at this slide, it would be helpful if you could give me at least an email that shows what the spending was in 23-24.
Sure.
Every time I do
Yes.
budgeting, I'd like to know where we were and where we're going.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. And if that could happen all the way down through the city council numbers.
Yeah. Yes, we
Thank
will
you.
get that to you. Okay, and then I just wanted to give you a high-level look also at the clean energy PSEF funding that is budgeted. So there's been a lot of sort of questions around this. This is there are a couple of ways to look at the PSEF funding. There are the 5-year allocation amounts that were made, and that's the number where it was like about $600 million into city bureaus over 5 years. This page now just looks at what was actually budgeted. So like when we look in the budget system, what dollars are sitting there? These include both one-time and sort of annual 5-year amounts. So you can't just multiply this by 5, obviously. And so I just wanted to kind of show you, obviously the parks is the biggest, followed by transportation, housing, and then planning and sustainability. I'll talk more specifically about what allocations are within each service area in a minute, but this was just a high level look. Okay, significant investments. So just stop me as I go through here. All right, Office of the City Administrator, Portland Solutions. Shelter Services has $500,000 for a low barrier workforce program, and then $3 million one time to fund operations in the 7 Safe Rest Village sites. Impact reduction program was funded to maintain existing service levels, which includes 2.6 million of ongoing and 2.6 million of one-time. But then in addition to that, there's $3 million of general fund that is spread across the customer bureaus, so parks, PBOT, BS, and water, to kind of relieve the financial impact of the cleanups that they pay for on their properties. SSCC got $300,000 one time, which will continue their current service levels. And then the Public Environment Management Office PMO, will get $2.5 million of one time and $2.5 million of ongoing to expand the program to reach all 4 districts. All right, and then also within city administrator, I'm covering all of charter. So this is broken out into charter transition, which is a total budget of 4.1 million. Of that, 500,000 is for council transitions. 1.6 million is carryover, and then there's 2 million of additional one-time funds. And then the pieces in the proposed budget specifically that are funded, that are ongoing, this is not everything that we've funded for charter, includes the assistant city administrator, the DCAs and their executive assistants, unified communications, and then additional capacity for the council clerk and the elections office within the auditor's office.
What's unified communications?
I'm gonna pass that to somebody. Yeah, or do you want something?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Laura Oppenheimer. I'm the Strategic Communications Manager in the Office of Management and Finance. What's included in that package is the continuation of 3 existing positions that have been part of a pilot project over the past 3 years to establish citywide communications resources and systems that are responsive to what we've heard from the community. 2 of those positions are funded by rescue plan funding that will expire at the end of this year. Another is currently funded by the Office of Management and Finance, but this is realigning the funding so it can function in the executive office. In addition to those 3 positions, what's included in the package is the communications officer position that was approved as part of the organizational chart last fall. The reason that one is being funded is that absent that, there would not be a communications manager level or above person in the executive office in our new form of government. And then additionally, in consultation with the mayor's team, 2 additional positions were recommended to be able to provide communications support for external facing activities for the executive office.
Okay, I think that helps. I'm still trying to, so is the unified communications team sort of the comms team for, let's say, the city administrator? Is that the
Yes, it's
way?
a central communications team that would serve the city administrator and to some degree the mayor's office as a result of that, as well as providing services across the organization that would serve all 6 service areas, not in place of them having day-to-day communication support, but providing things like crisis communications support, communications templates, tools, and resources and trainings, communications equipment library, convening the communications teams from across the city, et cetera. And that was based partly on the assessment of the pilot project over these last 3 years, partly on research of peer cities and forms of government similar to what Portland is adopting and what's typical for those cities. And then additionally on some both community and internal stakeholder feedback about what would be most beneficial and kind of what's the baseline of what could help the city function well as we transition.
Thank you very much. That was helpful.
Great.
Thank you. Other questions here, or should I move on? Okay. All right. Also within the new city administrator office will be community and civic life. There's $400,000 for grants to diversity and civic leadership programs, and then $100,000 to the new district, to the district coalition offices to align with the new district structure.
Can I ask a question about the district coalition offices?
Sure.
Have any decisions been made about how these dollars will get divided? I think if you go back to the public hearings that we've had in this, these spaces, I think one of the critiques was that the formula that we're using to distribute these dollars to different district coalitions was perhaps flawed. Are we touching that at all, or are we just increasing the amount of dollars in the pot?
We are, sorry. Now, can you hear me?
I
Great.
sure can.
For the record, Haley Blonsley. I work in Mayor Wheeler's office as a senior budget and policy advisor, and I'm also the liaison to Civic Life. So this additional $100,000 is not pre-designated towards any specific activities because every district coalition has different needs. And so some are experiencing, and we heard this throughout the listening sessions, that they're having a rampant increase in the number of neighborhoods that they're serving. So they're hoping to kind of create parallel services. Maybe that's in forms of communication support. Maybe that's in terms of the types of events that they're hosting in those neighborhoods. Others are more focused on training or providing some sort of fiscal sponsorship. And so we don't want to pigeonhole them by saying this is how you have to spend this money. It's different than what we did for them in the spring bump, supporting their insurance costs related to their requirements and supporting neighborhood associations that way. So this is increasing the overall pot of funding for the DCOs so that they can best support the neighborhoods according to the unique needs of the area.
What is the formula for determining how many dollars go to each coalition?
At this point, it'll be an even split of 25 per coalition because we don't have any specific formula development yet. There needs to be a much longer review process, which we've plotted out already with the city attorneys and other partners to say, first, we need to do kind of a broader review of the ONI standards that are long overdue for some revision. Commissioner Ryan is smiling because I know that I've had some conversations with his office about that. So there needs to be that review process of what is the actual purpose and service delivery for those DCOs in this completely new era from when they were originally created. Once those code revisions are done, there's also a parallel RFP process that needs to kind of be revitalized for what we're asking the DCOs to provide that'll align with those new ONI standards. And from there, we would be able to develop a better system and a better calculation for the amount of funding for each area. But at this time, we don't have the ability to do that in a way that would make sense.
Okay, that's helpful. But this will get sorted out before the start of the fiscal year? Is that what we're?
Oh, we won't be able to get to the ONI standards until late this year is when that process for revision is going to be kicking off, as well as the RFP revisions. But it is a part of the work plan to start doing all of the community outreach and kind of feedback gathering to feed into that process once summer hits. So it'll start this year, but we would look for those revisions to kind of come to life in spring of next year.
Okay. And I know a lot of folks, or when I take a look at the budget and the restructuring that's happening in Portland, it looks to me like probably no spaces evolved more than the offices of Civic Life. And frankly, even I've kind of lost the plot a little bit about what Civic Life is and where it lives right now. Can you just give us a very quick primer on the Office of Civic Life? It used to be its own bureau. Now, where does it fit into the org chart?
So the Office of Civic Life will be reporting to the Assistant City Administrator, and it'll live among programs like Portland Solutions and others. And so rather than having the director role in the traditional sense that we've had historically, the engagement officer will be overseeing that that work. So everything should tie in really nicely to have that person saying, okay, what is the broader engagement work that we're doing across the city, and then having that office be a hub, right, for all of that activity. So I think there's a lot of imagining to do also with that officer role coming into creation, and I know Jamie Duhamel with the charter transition team is kicking off that process to talk to stakeholders about what that role will be and look like. So I think we can anticipate a lot more shift and change within that office and what, purpose and services it provides once that engagement officer position comes to life. But it will still host, the immigrant and refugee program. It's still going to host the district coalition office program. It still has the advisory boards and commissions, and an engagement coordinator position as well in there. The Multnomah Youth Commission. So all the programs that have traditionally lived there are still housed there in this new org chart. It's really just like you're hinting at what more. How does it shift?
Should I still think of Civic Life as being a bureau, or is it kind of something other than a bureau at this point?
I mean, it is still functioning as a bureau at this point, and I think that, that's a broader conversation once we have a few more puzzle pieces about the engagement officer's role, so I can't really answer that. But right now, and for the foreseeable future, it's continuing to function as a bureau, and work will continue to live in it and need to be done both internally within the organization, which is kind of what's being fleshed out through the engagement officer process, but also into the community, which is all the programs that currently exist and are facilitated through that bureau.
Great. Thank you. One last question, and I realize we're kind of going into the weeds here a little bit. Glad to hear that someone is going to be taking a look at the ONE standards. I used to have to work with them a fair bit. And I haven't studied the ONE standards for a couple of years, although from what I remember of it and our current organizational structure, I'm kind of not quite sure how it fits together. I think, for example, of things like appeals to neighborhood grievances and like when those kind of march their way up the food chain. I'm not clear that we have someone to do that work anymore. And that's fine. There are lots of moving pieces in this space. What's the process for changing, something which I don't think I know, what's the process for changing the ONE standards? Is that a council thing? Is that like written into the charter? It's not,
It is a council thing.
Okay.
And I might have to defer to the attorneys to get more specific, but my understanding is that it would be a code revision process, much like we've been doing across the board for a variety of other bureaus to bring things up to date. Obviously, given the external nature of the code, it would need to have significant community engagement and process in order to have that be something we can successfully kind of review, revise, and vote on. And so I think that's kind of the challenging structure of the ONE code, is that it's dealing with the duties and responsibilities of external partners as well as the city, and kind of negotiating what those will be. And so I know that the district coalitions are eager for that review. I've heard the same feedback from neighborhood associations, business coalitions. Everybody is really excited and eager to jump in and give feedback. I think it's kind of universally recognized that it needs to be updated, and there's a lot of different ideas as we can imagine on how we would do that effectively.
Thank you very much. It's important work, and as a guy who used to work with the ONE code, it's certainly due for an update, and I look forward to the next council taking on that important work, and the community too. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you stepping up.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay put for a sec. Thank you, Commissioner Mapps. As a former employee of Civic Life, of course, you have that perspective, but you haven't had a chance to be the commissioner in charge.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've done a lot of work to try to do what best we can to bring the neighborhood associations back into the system. So I appreciate that. I think it's a puzzle, though, and you said as much. And so I think that the 25, split makes sense, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because we're going to dig deeper into the puzzle and realize that we'll have to make differentiated decisions, because the number of neighborhood associations and the size of the population are so different in each area. And so we have to look at some more structural change, probably, to make this fair. So
Absolutely.
I think we could consider having it be a holding pattern or whatever, and then figure out how to redirect it, maybe in the fall bump. Just a thought. on that one, since we know that the 25K each probably won't pan out going forward. Is there a way to do that in the budget process with a budget note?
I would say from the conversations I've been having with the district coalitions, they're eager for any increase in their funding and
Yeah, and
more
we're signaling that
specifically
with the
having some
100K.
flexibility in how to use it. And so I think that there would be, that would be something that I would like to go back to our partners and talk more about
Yeah.
because I know very specifically in the spring bump, we designated the $150,000 towards insurance costs because we knew those would be going up. And I know that there was concern about not being able to use the money in a different way that would be helpful. So I would say process-wise, I don't know that we could redirect it necessarily in the fall bump, but
It would give a chance to include them in the decision-making as we work out this puzzle. So I think what we're signaling the 100, we signaled that we're offering more money. We just have to figure out how to do it proportionally in a way that's fair.
yeah, and they are aware that there needs to be, like I said, just that broader assessment of what the funding practice is and kind of base that on the services that we would anticipate they'd provide through ONI standards. But we don't have the updated standards, and therefore it's really hard to guide how we tell them to spend the funding.
That makes sense. And why I have the floor real briefly, when I was thinking about the revenue sources in the proposed budget, I kept thinking about the levy, the parks levy now and then. And what I want to say is I really appreciate how CBO and the mayor have worked through the general fund challenges in general. And PBOT and Commissioner Mapps for taking on our transportation funding challenges. It's specifically that. But I'm not seeing the challenges arising in parks levy that are included in this budget. And I just look forward to reviewing those issues with CBO and the mayor's office to tackle those in the coming months and years. Because I think it's a sleepy part of this influence of revenue, and we have to be true to what the voters passed and the services that they are expecting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for Ruth. So when we talk about, I mean, it overlaps here a little bit, but from a budget perspective, what's the distinction between an office and a bureau?
Great question. I don't know if any of the city attorneys are here and want to speak to it, but there is a distinction in Title III of the code where bureaus have specific powers under Title III. But if I go any further than that, they'll probably be mad. So do you want me to?
I can follow up with the attorney's office if they're not later for that question. I just trying to understand from a budget perspective how that flows through, because bureaus are created under charter, I think, by council. Offices are a little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a specifically enumerated
In code, yeah.
concept in charter, but I haven't really dug into the code, so I'm just trying to.
Yeah, most bureaus are Title III bureaus under code, not designated in charter, but the offices are not, I believe. But I would have to, if you have a question about specific ones and their powers, that we can get you that answer.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. So bureaus are created or eliminated under charter power by council. It's just offices aren't specifically enumerated there, and I was just trying to understand what that means, if anything, on the budget side. Maybe it doesn't really matter, but but let me give you specifics. So if there's an office under the city administrator, and is that considered, if you're moving, resources from one office to another, is it the same as moving from one bureau to another?
Good question. We are actively sort of in discussions about this with the city attorney's office. And what I will say is, for budget law purposes, we have organizational units that are identified in the budget in our appropriations table. And that is the controlling sort of level in terms of budget law. That is, you'll actually see a directive in the ordinance for the approved budget sort of speaking to that. So for budget purposes, what matters is the appropriation table. And the way we appropriate funds is like the Office of Civic Life, the Office of Community and Civic Life is an organizational unit for budget purposes. So if you move funding outside of the Office of Community and Civic Life, it's the same as moving it between the police bureau and the fire bureau, right? It's and so that is the kind of relevant unit, I guess, for the budget. Does that help at all?
Yeah, actually, that's directly on point. So what would be, is there significant programs or new creations of the org chart that are not organizational units for purposes of this proposed budget?
In the proposed budget, there are, so within the new kind of service area buckets, there are some programs currently that reside within one of those buckets and are not an organizational unit in and of themselves, but they have their own fund center. So, Portland Street Response, for example, is not its own organizational unit. It's moving from, in the proposed budget, it's moving from fire to the public safety sort of service area bucket. And so that will be the organizational unit that it resides in. That said, it still has its own what we call fund center, so you can still track, like, this is Portland Street Response funding, and if you moved funding around, like, they should put a decision package in if you were going to move funding around outside of a fund center in a budget process. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps.
No, actually, it does. So one last example. So we talked about the communication officer and centralized communication. Are we calling that a centralized communication office under the org chart?
I think it'll be the Unified Communications Team.
Is that an organizational unit under the?
No, it's just like a program. We have things called program offers also within the budget. So you see in the adopted budget book, there are, within each bureau, there are a number of program offers. That's more like, that's a discretionary, that's not directed by budget law. It's kind of a thing that we do, but it's a practice because it aids communication and tracking within the budget. And so things that are like programs that don't have powers of a bureau or anything like that, or they're not an organizational unit, can be a program offer. So that's the kind of thing that would probably be a program offer at some point.
I think for my office's purposes, it'd be helpful to maybe just go through the org chart that we approved in November, figure out what's new and how that maps, whether that's mapping to an organizational unit or not, just so I can kind of
Sure, yeah.
see what's more hardwired and what's not.
Yeah, we can get that.
Thank you. Good.
All right, I'm going to keep moving here. City operations. Okay, so this is city fleet, which is within the new city operations service area. There's $29 million over 5 years of PSEF for increasing electric vehicle support and EV charging infrastructure. There's a portion of this that will help with some of the initial costs related to the relocation of Kirby Garage. And then in addition to the PSEF funding for Kirby Garage, there's also just budget authority to debt finance the tenant improvements to that facility, which will take place in 24-25. There's no actual, it's just the budget authority to do that. That's $55 million in project financing.
Can I jump in here? Can you summarize where this budget takes us on the subject of Kirby Garage? So, for example, I think even your average Portlander might have noticed, I think, a pretty excellent series in the Willamette Week about some of the challenges at Kirby Garage. Certainly, if you sat on council for any length of time, it's an issue which will probably come up every year, and often not a whole lot of progress gets made. What does this budget do with the Kirby conundrum?
Yeah. So I think the two pieces that are on this slide kind of speak to that, which is they're a pretty substantial step forward. The first is about $1.2 million that will go towards the lease costs for the new Kirby, for the new city fleet headquarters in the facility on Swan Island. And then the second decision package is for, as I said, just the project financing. There are sort of ongoing conversations that Maddie can speak to about, you know, we know we will debt finance those tenant improvements to the tune of about $55 million, which is why that's in the budget. But in terms of how that will be paid for with the mix of bureaus paying through their budgets and, you know, other potential revenue sources, that's still a conversation, but I'll let Maddie speak to it as well. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay, for the record, my name is Maddie Sauter, run the Division of Asset Management. So I want to make sure I ask the specific, or answer the specific question you're asking.
Sure. Have we finally moved beyond the Kirby garage dilemma? Is that fixed in this budget? Do we have a plan that moves us forward so that future councils don't have to try to fix a very challenging space?
We're so close. Yeah. So it was a little bit confusing. I think there was a budget fact sheet that came out that didn't actually speak to the main authorization that we were seeking, but it was actually in BFM and programmed that way, which is as part of this budget process, we need budget authority to do a couple of things. The first is we have to be able to sign a lease. We have to be able to finance debt to pay for the $55 million in improvements to the new facility, and then we have to be able to bill that back to the bureaus starting in the next fiscal year. So not 24, 25, but 25, 26, and beyond for 20 years. So those are three specific kind of authorities that we're seeking. We submitted a decision package speaking to those authorities. So if this budget goes through as proposed, those authorities will be granted, and we're good to go. There are some other things happening with PSEF, and I think it's gotten a little bit confusing just of the nature of timing. There's a large chunk of money coming to City Fleet for PSEF, and you see that on the top line here, but that's not related to the facility. That's specifically related to EVs and EV charging. That's bureau side charging. There's only about $300,000 of that that's coming to a maintenance facility to do a small amount of charging in the headquarters. There is also money that PSEF had remaining this year that was granted to us to help fund the 24-25 relocation costs. So we do actually have to pay some lease costs for the next year while we're in design and construction, with the debt kicking in 25-26. So that PSEF granted us funds to cover the rent for the next year, which is a benefit essentially to the bureaus. It means instead of having a two-part step increase, they have one step increase starting in 25-26. And then last but not least, we are actively applying for additional PSEF funding. There is an allocation or a granting period that closes, I think, for the last round of funding that they want to distribute. It's on May 17th. So we are putting together a submittal for that. That's actually all of DAM. So some of it would be Kirby capital costs. Some of it is facilities capital costs that have been unfunded for a long time. These are things like HVAC and lighting controls in a lot of our buildings. And then the third tier of that pillar, or the third pillar of that third leg of the stool, is workforce development funding with Portland Community College. So we're working on building out the trades pipeline from high school to community colleges to apprenticeships to the city to try to increase trades-related applicants to the jobs. We, for example, have a 50% vacancy rate in one of our trades, and we kind of always have, and that just doesn't work. They're essential employee positions. So we're actively dialoguing with PCC about that trades pipeline, and then we would also layer on top of that like EV-specific HVAC, lighting control trainings for current staff. So that one is in the offing. If money comes in for that, it could offset debt costs for PBOTs and parks and fire and police going forward for a period of time, but not holistically. It would just take down the debt service that they would owe if that's granted. But passing this budget as proposed would resolve the Kirby issue once and for all, with gravy coming maybe later if we can get some offsets from additional revenue sources.
That's great. To make it kind of more intuitive, if you work at Kirby today, when can you expect to kind of have your workplace moved to Swan Island? Or what?
Yeah, we are looking at September 2026 is the current construction timeline.
Okay, great. One last question. We are leasing the Swan Island facility, I think. How long is that lease for?
So we're in I'm going to actually do a key check here. Our decision package is authority to lease and authority to do tenant improvements, debt for tenant improvements. And I say that because we are actively negotiating the lease with someone on Swan Island for a facility that we have scoped and designed for. That lease cannot be signed until after a budget authority comes, but we also want to make sure that the lease is the right thing. And so we are actually looking at a couple other properties, just in case we need to have, it doesn't work out. If there's any major red flags, we would kill the deal and we'd go somewhere else. So that is just a correction to the record that I want to make. We are not locked into this facility. We will be locking into the authority to sign a lease.
Got it. Do we have a sense of, do we have any intuition about how long we would
Yeah.
have to sign a lease for?
What we know is that we want, the lease has to be for longer than the debt service. We know that based on kind of all of our construction estimating to date, the costs are going to be around that 55 million. So the debt service has been forecasted for 20 years. So a lease will have to be longer than a 20-year period. We've worked with bond counsel pretty extensively to understand what that means. So a lease could be 20 years and a day. It could be 23 years as the current one we've locked into that we're negotiating on. We have this one that we're currently negotiating is 23 years plus 2 10-year extensions. So it could go up to 43 years.
Wow, okay. Well, thank you very much. Just one observation, and I know this is a very complex space, and frankly, I'll take any progress that we can get here. It does, leasing a space and then putting $55 million into improvements, part of me sure wishes that we could own that land. I recognize that there's some challenges there too, but as really glad to see this part move forward. Would probably be even more delighted if we were able as a city to actually purchase the land and invest in our own facility. And I'm sure there are complex reasons why we can't do that, or that's why that's not our plan A, but certainly.
Could I jump in on that? 'Cause,
Yeah.
You're thinking exactly the same way I was, and I'll tell you why I've changed my mind.
Okay.
I've changed my mind because government does a terrible job of maintaining the assets it owns.
Yeah.
And I actually think that flexibility, 20, 25, 30 years, whatever that lease term turns out to be, actually gives the city the most flexibility to be in a modern, well-maintained facility. So if this were a private sector enterprise, I'd be with you 100%. I'd say let's not invest into somebody else's asset, but just knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen with regard to capital asset maintenance, I think this is the right way to go. That being said, as Maddie just said, if we find a screaming deal, a better alternative, we'll take it.
And that's a compelling hypothesis that makes sense to me. I'm not quite sure what fleet services is going to mean in 20 years, for example. So I'm glad that we have found a path forward. And thanks for your innovation.
That's a great point too, Commissioner, that we don't know. We suspect our fleet's going to be entirely different. I don't know if it's EVs. I don't know if it's hybrids. I don't know if it's hovercrafts. Who knows? But that flexibility is probably to our advantage at this particular point.
All right, great. Excellent work.
I have a kind of somewhat parallel question as we're thinking long-term about fleet and just the budget appropriation here. When we think about resiliency in a community for things like seismic risk, I'm just trying to play through the benefits of, and disadvantages of our existing fleet versus electrification all in, or is a hybrid model? And the context for the question is obviously PSEF funds are encouraging certain types of investment in the city. I think a lot of those are positive. Electrification of a portion of our fleet would be an example of that. But what I'm also trying to build, is we have certain parts of our current fleet that don't qualify for PSEF funds. They're still largely out, in fossil fuel world. that has some downsides. The advantages of our power lines fall, they're still going to be able to theoretically refuel. And so maybe just as we're thinking about long-term for the city fleet, non-public safety, just our general fleet, what's your kind of take on resilience as we, to things like seismic and other natural disasters that could disrupt our electric lines? How are we going to perform? And should we always assume we're going to have some element of a hybrid fleet there? Or maybe it's too early to tell. I'm just sort of curious what your thinking is on that, Maddie.
Yeah, well, my thinking is that we need mutual aid agreements. So when I think about what happens in the days or weeks after a seismic event, it is not that everybody comes to work, frankly. Will everybody be here? Will they be helping their kids? What I think I've seen as best practice is that you actually crack mutual aid agreements with people who are outside of your sort of terror zone, if you will, City of Spokane, City of Bend, who would bring in their rigs and be able to fuel using their equipment, but following our operating procedures. And that is really the best practice way. And you see it all the time with utilities. People will fly entire crews to handle the Sandy hurricane, right? So they're flying crews all over the nation to help out, and that's the essence of a mutual aid agreement. With that, one of the things that actually concerns me about the Kirby Garage is we are the regional fuel provider. It's at that depot, and it's in a landslide zone. So I would also like to look at a mutual aid agreement with TriMet. I think they have about 4 million gallons of diesel fuel on hand at any time. There's no option on that fuel. I know FEMA would probably come in and take that fuel, but we should be thinking about other places where there can be regional fueling hubs that are not at the PBOT headquarters in a landslide zone. So I think that there's actually a much more robust conversation here about emergency management. It's region-wide. It's looking at mutual aid. It's looking at fueling hubs. It's looking at contracts and diesel. All of that in conjunction with what's happening in the grid. And I know there's a lot of regional conversations about resilience. We need to be a part of those. I don't think we have been historically.
Well, that's something we can take offline. I think we can help facilitate that at some level. And it's just and your point's well made. When you're talking about federal intervention, there's always going to be a gap, though, right? Like, so you have a seismic event, you have X amount of days until, National Guard or the feds are really going to be here. Sometimes that's weeks in a material way. And so the part the city controls is that immediate aftermath and what investments we're making now that allows us to be responsive during that initial period. And EVs versus diesel versus other fuel, that's actually it's relevant in those first couple of weeks. So anyways, thank you for letting me go down that rabbit hole. Thanks, I'm good.
So I just wanted, how many more slides do we have? I think we have quite a few, correct?
Quite a few, yes.
Let me just offer on the pipeline. I really enjoyed hearing about the pipeline conversations you're having, and spending a lot of time in that space before I was in this position. I would offer that you should really work with the union trades as well, electrical union, the carpenters. They tend to be quite nimble in partnership with PCC, of course, as well. But please add them to it so we can see more action. Thanks.
And I
look forward
know
to
we
a
need,
longer I just want to wrap up, Commissioner Mapps. And I think the conversation that we're having about centralized communication is a refreshing one to hear. I would like to hear more about it in an upcoming dialogue about what that looks like and what we expect from it, so then we can look at where there might be efficiencies going forward. Thanks.
and I know we need to move on, and I've been the worst perpetrator in slowing us down, but very quickly, just so I understand, if we move forward with the proposal here, will PBOT still have staff at Kirby?
So it's confusingly titled, there's a Kirby Albina complex. They have a maintenance and operation facility called Kirby Maintenance. We are in a facility called the Kirby Garage, because they're on Kirby. Their maintenance and operations facility will stay put. The Kirby Garage will vacate, but you're talking about Stanton Yard, down in the bottom.
Yeah, Harry, can I just bring up Jeremy?
Yeah.
Jeremy, help me understand what's going on. Help me understand what I should understand
This
in
is
this
how the
space.
city's branding problems come back to bite us. Just want you to know.
I can tell. Go ahead. Jeremy, do you understand the question I'm trying to ask?
I do. I'm just getting the mic to work. Yes. So I just want to clarify, there are staff, PBOS staff that are in the basement of the Kirby facility. So although fleet is moving out of the top floors, Kirby, we still have staff in the bottom floor. So we have our wood shop, we have our sign shop, we have our signals and street lighting crews, we have our meter techs. They are all located beneath the fleet operations right now. And so we will need to figure out how to move those folks as well. And we're working through that, but I just want to make sure when we say, are we solving the Kirby facility? We're solving it for fleet. We have not yet solved it for PBOS.
That is, yeah, it's a separately, it's like a commercial condo, a prehistoric commercial condo. So they're in the Stanton Yard. It's called the Stanton Yard. We're in the Kirby Garage. But yeah, we're right on top of them.
Well, thank you. That's very helpful, and I sure hope that we can work together as a council to make sure that we don't leave PBOT behind as we find a solution to escape this clearly obsolete and not as safe as we'd like it facility.
Dump.
Thank you very much, and I'll let Ruth get back to her show.
Great. We just a time check. We have what, about 20 slides left? Okay.
20,
So why don't we
okay.
do this? Why don't we go till 11:05-ish? We'll take a brief
Yeah.
break and then we'll keep powering through. Great.
Okay. We're still on city operations, Bureau of Human Resources. Got added back about $300,000 for the summer works program through work systems, and then one-time support for a limited term position, and then $1.3 million going into the health fund for the city's share of the health benefit cost increase above 8%. We also have some support in public works that's separate from this amount. This is just the health fund amount. Okay, and then the Office of Community-Based Police Accountability will be established in the city operations service area. This budget fully funds the required 5% of the police bureau budget for the new oversight system. Okay, some economic recovery highlights. This budget allocates funding. Well, first, it establishes the new Portland Permitting and Development Bureau. We have realignments from Parks, PBOT, BES, and Water to this new to this bureau, which will form sort of the new staff of this combined office, and then bureau, excuse me. The budget also allocates general fund for one-time general fund to continue the permit improvement team, and then about $2 million for technology upgrades as well. And then Film and Events Office is $1 million of one-time support to subsidize event funding and permitting support. And then it also establishes the Office of Small Business in Prosper. And then in addition, there's $1 million for small business repair grants, and then another $1 million for the graffiti program in the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. Within the housing space, there's the PSAF funds that have been allocated to the Housing Bureau are represented in the budget. There's also about $25 million for the joint office. That's, excuse me, on the joint office, that's ongoing funding. That's their general fund.
A separate meeting just on the joint office coming up.
Their work session on the joint office.
Okay, so.
That will be, yes.
Okay, so I've been asking for this. I look forward to seeing all the expenditures that we make out of our city budget for homeless services at total and aggregate. That, of course, includes the impact reduction programs, the villages, all shapes and sizes, et cetera. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to public safety. Within sort of core public safety services, PPB is fully funded, and with an additional $5 million in one-time to address overtime needs and incentive programs, as well as $350,000 for auto and retail theft task force with the district attorney's office. Portland Fire and Rescue is also fully funded for next year, so they got 10 additional entry-level firefighter positions, plus $6 million of ongoing funding and $4 million of one-time general funds, sort of addition added. And then BOIC is fully funded. No changes there. With PSR and chat, chat is funded for another fiscal year with a combination of general fund, one-time general fund resources, and then opioid settlement funding. And then, as I kind of mentioned earlier, Portland Street Response is moving from fire to the sort of public safety service area. They have previously had some one-time dollars, and this funds PSR with largely ongoing funding to continue at their current service level. So their budget will be about $7.4 million next year, and this will provide them sort of a more stable resource base and fund all of their existing positions. Other changes in public safety, the Bureau of Emergency Management received $262,000 for ongoing position to oversee severe weather response. And then in the Community Safety Division, there's sort of a mix of different allocations, including continuing one-time funding to fill the fiscal cliff for the gun violence reduction funding that has been housed in the Community Safety Division, as well as Rose City Self-Defense, Safe Blocks, Summer Ceasefire, the FitCog, and the Enhanced Community Safety Team.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I appreciate the mayor expanding the definition of community safety, public safety to include all these groups. I will say this, just a real quick story. So when I took over the Parks Bureau, it was told to me that the rangers need to be seen more as a part of the public safety system. And I'm happy and proud to say over the last year and a half that's happened. And they are an integral, they're really an important part of the first responder system. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Mayor, you and I had conversations, and more importantly, with others, such as Chief Day, really thanking the Rangers for being on the front lines to help with what was happening on the park blocks, went into PSU. They were such a big part of that system. So currently, they were not included for some reason, but we'll be coming back to that conversation and avoid that 5% cut of something that's a really important part of the public safety system. So that's a $340,000 amendment that I'm sure will be coming. I look forward to support from all my colleagues because I know you want the Rangers to be part of our public safety system. Thanks.
Yeah, first of all, I concur 100%. I'm always just mindful of the fact there are bargaining issues related to referring to them as public safety. So no disrespect meant to our Rangers. They do fantastic work, and I agree in recent years, Commissioner, they have stepped up in a big way. And it adds some reassurance. When people see the park rangers in the parks, it's just one more set of eyes. And I know people really appreciate it. They appreciate the work that's being done.
And I appreciate that. Like PSR and others, they're that trauma-informed, calming type first responder that really works hand in glove with.
I see them all over the place. You know, I drive through the park blocks on my way here, and I see them there, and they're talking to people, and they're
spending a lot more time
engaged,
downtown.
and it's nice to see. It really is. I appreciate your leadership on that front.
Can I ask a quick question? So where are we? What's the staffing level over at the Safe Blocks program?
Is there somebody?
Here comes Sarah. No? Oh, you shouldn't have stood up right then. Sarah, come on up.
I think somebody from the Community Safety Division is maybe online that could help with that one, or if not, we can get back to you.
Here, why don't I just cut to the chase? I think there's some confusion. It seems like there should be 6 folks in Safe Blocks and 2 FTE over at Rose City Self-Defense. but in the budget line item, there are only 7 FTE. Was that intentional, or is that a typo?
I assume it's not a typo, but I would have to defer to the program to tell you how they budgeted that. If somebody is online that can answer that, then great. If not, we'll.
Haley,
just-
do you have the answer?
Yeah. This is Nathan Leamy.
Oh, there's Nathan. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
Hi there. I'm the Budget Strategy and Performance Manager for the Public Safety Service area. To balance the budget for CSD this year, we had vacant positions that were cut in order to do balancing, as well as some positions that were filled that were put on the line. Road City Self-Defense was included as some of those positions. Those have been restored here. There is still one position that was a filled safe blocks position that hasn't been restored with this current budget.
Okay, so I think there was some discussion about, so how many safe block positions are proposed in this budget? Is it 5 or 6, I think is the question.
I believe we currently have 10 positions, 2 of which are vacant, but that includes Rose City Self-Defense, so take those out. That would get us down to 6, yeah.
Okay, so that means we lost, in the proposed, there's a loss of 1 position over at safe blocks.
Correct.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit disappointed at that, processing it in real time. Thank you for clarifying what's going on here.
All right. Moving on to Vibrant Communities.
Why don't we use,
break.
we'll get Commissioner Ryan, then why don't we take a brief
If you
break?
go
here?
back really quick. Yeah, thanks. So I think it's wonderful that we're looking at PSEF investments. Thank you, Commissioner Rubio and the committee at PSEF, to look at street tree maintenance, especially in the privates. That's new expense, new work. So it's not a relief to the general work of urban forestry. So we'll have further conversations with all of you about how to treat that up. More on that.
Great. All right, we're hanging in there. This is thick material. Why don't we take a brief break? It's 11:06. Why don't we come back at 11:15 and we'll power through the remainder of the slides. Thank you. We're in recess.
You can actually. Made it jittery.
back in session. Ruth, I was worried you'd run away during the break. Should I have? No. No, because then I'd have to answer all the questions. I don't want to, so you're much better.
Okay, should I get going?
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. We're on vibrant communities. So this is a few different things. There's 168 million over 5 years of PSEF. That includes the street tree protection and care program, the equitable tree canopy, energy efficiency upgrades for community centers, and efficient park lighting. The realignment to Portland Planning and Development that I mentioned earlier includes 7 FTE and about $1.2 million of revenue. And then there's a general fund subsidy included for Portland Parks of about $1.5 million to address the cost of cleanups through the impact reduction program on Parks property.
Yeah, could I actually have people from Parks to come up, Todd and Claudio specifically? Director Long, is that the right two people? Are they the right? Okay, thanks. Trying to track this, Mayor. There was $100 million allocation, right, to PSEF to do street tree maintenance, especially the private trees on the streets for people, especially that don't have the means to cover them. And so we're finally doing what many cities offer, which is provide that type of street tree maintenance, which is a big part of being climate responsive. So that happened, but then it's only 65. I'm getting confused
Sure.
on the recent developments. So could you please explain?
Sure. The original PSEF committee commitment was about $100 million to street tree maintenance. In the mayor's proposed budget, that number is down to $65 million over the 5 years, and $35 million is being allocated to urban forestry operations, which had previously been funded with general fund, and that's $7 million a year for a total of $35 million. So the $35 million in the mayor's proposed is for urban forestry operations, and $65 million for the street trees.
So how much of a cut to the general operations?
There's no cut to urban forestry general operations because we're moving general fund dollars out and PSEF dollars in. So there's no change of service levels for urban forestry operations. There is a reduction of the commitment to new street tree maintenance from $100 million to the $65 million in the mayor's proposed.
Okay, got it. So have we had dialogue with the PSEF committee about such changes?
So we just received the mayor's proposed, so this
Okay.
is a work in progress.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, Todd's
Okay.
got it.
Budget Office, any response to going against the recommendation from PSEF?
I mean, we can continue the conversation offline.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right. Thanks. Did that uncover it?
I think
All right.
that's
Great.
clear for everyone.
So since we opened this can of worms, just so I can track, so has PSEF approved, has the board approved the 100 million or the 65? I'm just trying to track what's actually been approved. This has been incredibly confusing in this budget cycle when we talk about these, so what has been approved with respect to parks and what has not been approved with respect to parks?
The $100 million amount was the one that was approved for the street tree protection and care. However, that there was an expectation that the $100 million, that there would be continued work to do to discuss how that amount would be programmed.
Okay.
There was no sort of, it hadn't been programmed out yet, essentially. I think there's continued conversation there, but
Who does the programming out? Is that done at the bureau level? Does that go back to PSEF or how does that work?
Want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. So today, private street trees are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner today. So if you're a homeowner, you have a street tree, you have to take care of that yourself.
I'm very familiar with this.
Right. So a lot of excitement about this idea of having the city help fund that street tree care and maintenance.
Totally,
And so
totally
that's-
sold on it.
That's
Yep.
the $100 million commitment over 5 years. A new program, new services, and many of that will be done through partnerships and contractors to do that work. So that work is being scoped right now. Now we have in the mayor's proposed, rather than the $100 million commitment, we have a $65 million commitment. So that's where we are today.
So what has the PSEF board approved? They approved 100 million, 65 million, and what needs to go back, if anything, to that body?
I mean, I would have to defer to Donnie if he's on sort of the back and forth with the body, but I think my understanding is the board sort of approves the allocations at a high level, and then there's conversation between the PSEF team and the city bureaus on figuring out how to actually program that. I mean, I think at first glance, the thinking for next year was that this amount wasn't programmed. I think there still has to be continued conversations about kind of what this looks like beyond next year. But but in terms of whether it has to go back to the committee or not, I think that's more a question for Donnie or the PSEF team. But the board approved the $100 million for this package. But again, that is sort of at a high level. There hadn't been conversation about exactly what that entailed and how that would be programmed out.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to understand decision-making on programming. Like, does that sit in the city bureau, or does that sit at PSEF, or is it a negotiated item? And, go ahead.
I think it's a negotiated item that kind of goes back and forth. I mean, the way most of the PSEF allocations are budgeted at this point, they vary in terms of how much the specific item was fully programmed out, because some of them were things that were in flight already and they already knew what their expenses looked like, and other things like the tree protection and care that is new and they don't know yet what the programming looks like. So there is some variability, but the understanding is that there would be some agreement between the PSEF folks and the bureaus on exactly what the scope is, in the same way that if a grant was given to an external partner, there would be an agreement around what the scope is. And then there are various checkpoints to kind of check in. I mean, in the same way we try to with general funds, check in on kind of how that money is being spent and what the outcomes are associated with that, in order to make sure it's in alignment with what the goal of the project was.
Yeah, and last editorial here, it's one thing's when we're talking about grants of one time, but when we're talking about replacement essentially for ongoing operations and services, to me that's a little different dynamic. And we're not talking small chunks of change, so it's just trying to understand what could be surprises, what surprises could come if PSEF and the bureaus don't reach agreement, and that's it. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really helpful to have on the public record. Appreciate it.
All right, we move on to Public Works. So here we have $235 million over 5 years from PSEF for watershed and natural systems restoration, streetcar and active transportation programs, LED street lighting, and 82nd Avenue tree expansion. In addition to PSEF, we have $2.2 million of general fund going to PBOT for Old Town entertainment districts, green space management, graffiti, public plazas, and safety improvements. Beyond that, there's a subsidy to PBOT of $807,000 for the impact reduction program cleanups. And then for the Portland permitting and development changes, there are 24 PBOT staff One of those is shared between PBOT and BES. 21 BES staff and 6 water staff moving over to PP&D.
So there are 50 some odd infrastructure staff that are getting transferred over to the new permitting bureau?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. Who pays the salaries for that? Does that come out of ratepayer? Are those salaries still paid by ratepayers or gas taxes?
So and I don't know if somebody from BES or water is on the revenues for BES and water will still go through BES and water, and then they'll be sent over to PP&D to pay for those staff. But I believe for I believe for BES, there's about 50% is covered through permit-specific fees, and then 50% is covered through a subsidy within BES revenues. And I believe water is primarily through permit-specific fees. But if Cecilia or Ken are on, they could probably speak more directly to that question.
We can move on.
All right, this is the end of the investments. So any questions overall on investments before I move on to budget notes in our last 3 minutes? Commissioner Ryan, did you?
Yeah, a couple things. I think when we were looking at SPA, which I'm a big supporter of, I'd like to see more consistency in how we're building it in terms of the financing. So I know that with PBOT, it looks like the proposal pays for the gap on behalf of PBOT. But meanwhile, Parks will take a cut of 272, according to the information I have.
I'd have to get you the final numbers on PBOT. I'm not sure that it
Okay.
entirely pays for the gap.
Claudia, on your team, when you'll be able to connect with her on that, or do you want to get it to the public record? Did I say what I said? Was it accurate according to what we had in our meeting yesterday? I'm trying to remember, but that's what I recall. Okay, great.
Can you say that again, Commissioner Ryan? I'm not sure if I tracked what
Yeah, so
what you were trying to say.
as we're building SPA, we all
Yep.
know it's a sacrifice to do what's right, and so I've been supportive of that for the last 4 years. My point is we could have some consistency in how we're building it. So PBOT, and I'm not doing like, oh, you're lucky, you win, I lose. It's
Yeah.
the city. We're talking about one city because we should have a better permitting system. But it looks like we're able to figure out how to make that investment much smoother for PBOT, whereas with Parks, it's not so much. So we're just taking a big burden. And I think it's this bigger thing that I just want to put out into the dais, which is, yes, we passed a Parks levy. And that was passed because a lot of people wanted services. People are having a hard time, as you know, continuing to embrace our city as a place to live and raise their children. And Parks is at the top of the list of what allows them to still be positive about Portland. And so there is a pattern when you look at this budget where we're relying upon the levy in a way that I don't think it was intended. So we need to get to the bottom of that so we don't take away those services and have the levy recoup some of our cuts that we're making to general operations. So I know we talk a lot about voter intent, and I don't scream about that too much, but I think it's really important that we need to look back at what the voter intent was on the Parks levy.
And then just real quick on the permitting costs. So because PBOT is sending over 21 staff, so just to back up for a second, because for the public and just to level set on what happened with the permitting development. So each of those bureaus sent over staff, and there are permit revenues associated with those staff, right? That the fees that are levied on the permits go towards paying for those staff. In some cases, that fee revenue is sufficient. In other cases, it's not. And so there are other revenues that are included. And then in addition to that, the cost structure of the staffing for essentially this function is changing now with this new bureau. In part, that's just because every bureau has different sort of overhead type expenses. We have citywide overhead, and then there are overhead type expenses that are unique to each bureau, and each bureau sort of pays for those differently. And so I think what Commissioner Ryan is referring to is sort of the gap between the revenues that support the staff and the full cost in the new home for those staff. And you can see that on this slide, which is a little confusing, but I think maybe what you're referring to, Commissioner Ryan, is there was kind of a large gap in absolute terms for PBOT because they're sending 21 staff over to the new permitting entity. And so just the math was such that gap was larger. And there was some discussion about how exactly to handle the expected costs in the new home for these staff. We were able to sort of there's some assumed underspending essentially in the PBOT number, but you can see there's still a gap there on the slide for PBOT and a gap for parks, and that these numbers may need to be slightly updated after the budget was fully passed, because if you're saying 272,000, then that's slightly different. But I guess my point is that we did not directly, we haven't like subsidized PBOT to cover this gap, if that makes sense.
And the other one before we move on is the impact reduction program. I just want to say it on the record again that the expense of that program should be subtracted before we send money to the county, or we would get direct money from SHS for such services that Portlanders want and voted yes on when they passed that in 2020.
Okay, I'm just going to touch on some budget notes really quickly. We have a few, and I'm just going to kind of hit on them, and then if you have questions, happy to. They're all, the full text of them is in the proposed book, so you can see it there. There is a budget note about evaluating the impact reduction program ongoing funding model. There's a budget note about data-informed decision-making and how to build data-informed decision-making into the new organizational structure. There's a budget note about evaluating the new or the ongoing funding structure for this new water quality district flood safety benefit fee, which is funded one time in the budget. Then moving into city operations, we have recommendations for citywide asset management office. That was on the organizational chart that was adopted in November, but hasn't been sort of realized yet in this budget. So it's in a budget note. Permitting, looking at the technology within the new permitting bureau. And then continued collaboration on the future health insurance costs that's based on the conversation you all had around the vote for the increased health rates. Within community economic development, there's a overhead and staffing evaluation for Portland permitting and development, which I didn't mention when we were having that conversation. Is there was sort of a recognition that this had to get, you all approved a resolution that this would be stood up on July 1st, so this had to be in the budget for this year. But there's a recognition that there needs to be continued conversation about exactly what that cost structure looks like. So those costs are not like written in stone forever. It's per this budget note, it's a continued conversation. And then there's a budget note about reserves for permitting revenues and looking more carefully at the sort of reserve policy and how that's worked over the past 10 years or so. Within public safety, there's a number of sort of a couple of budget monitoring types of budget notes. One for the public safety bureaus as a whole, looking at overtime, and then one specific to Portland Fire and Rescue to continue, closely sort of monitoring now that their budget, what's in the proposed budget fully funds them for next year based on their expected overtime spending, if you include their expected set-aside amount, so just setting up a system to monitor that more carefully. And then a budget and reporting structure analysis for the Office of Gun Violence and for ceasefire. And then direction to develop a mission and staffing model for Portland Street Response and chat programs and pursue additional funding. I think that got cut off. And then within Public Works, there's a review of the Creek settlement funding options moving forward. There was $6.8 million that was allocated of general fund that was previously for LED streetlights that's been allocated to to Creek ongoing. Some of it was pulled back one time, but there remains some funding gap ongoing there.
Funding gap on what?
On the Creek settlement for the remaining 6 years of the settlement.
Okay, thanks.
And then updating revenue and expense forecasting methods within PBOT. And then there's a budget note about the BES interagency agreements for the Portland Permitting and Development. I think that's it. I know we're over time, so just want to highlight really quickly, we have the proposed hearing this Thursday in the afternoon. We've moved that to be in chambers here. So for folks, they can still obviously testify online, but there will be testimony either here or virtually. And then the next Wednesday is the approved budget hearing. We'll need any amendment language by Monday in order to make sure we get it accurate and are able to include that in the approved budget. We'll then submit the approved budget to the Tax Supervising Conservation Commission, and that hearing will happen on June 11th, and then the budget adoption hearing will be on June 12th.
Great, then we start working on the fall bump.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you here.
Great. Colleagues, further questions? All right, good. This concludes the hearing of the Budget Committee. The meeting of the Budget Committee is continued to this coming Thursday, May 9th at 2 p.m., where public testimony will be received, as Ruth just indicated, on the proposed budget. Public comment and testimony may be submitted through an online intake form or for participants registered in advance of the Budget Committee meeting. If you'd like to register, please visit www.portland.gov/CBO, scroll down to events and click on the fiscal year 2024-25 city budget hearing tab to access the sign up link. And with that, colleagues, we are adjourned.